Hey guys, this is Brandon with Taylorsfiresmoke Cooking. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something that is what you might consider comfort food, or it is comfort food. It's one of my favorites actually. We're going to do meatloaf. Now meatloaf is what I consider a kiss dish, keep it simple, stupid dish. You don't have to put a whole lot of stuff in the meatloaf to have it taste good. So I'm going to show you what my recipe consists of, and I think it's a good one. I think you will too. So stick around. Let's get into this meatloaf. Now I've got about 2.5 pounds of meat right here. Just over 2.5 pounds actually, so it's a pretty decent sized meatloaf. Now to this meat, I'm going to add a cup and a half of tomato sauce. Now you can use ketchup. A lot of people do, most people do. I've used ketchup sometimes as well, but I'll also like to use tomato sauce. So that's what we got there. Then we're going to season it. Black pepper. Now your seasoning to taste, I like to go fairly heavy on my spices, like my salt, my pepper, my garlic, and my complete, and then not as heavy on my salt, because it's not very hard to over season a meatloaf. You can, think you're seasoning it lightly, and before you know it, you got way too much salt in it, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So heavy on the pepper, heavy on the garlic, pretty heavy on the complete. Then we're going to be using some season oil, and I'm gonna go liberal, but not super heavy with that. Like I said, when you're adding the other spices in it, the meatloaf still tastes good. It might not be as salty as you want, but I'm, not heavy on the sodium anyway. So I've got our seasonings in there. We're gonna add 2 eggs. Two of those. Alrighty. Then I've got some breadcrumbs right here. Got about a cup of breadcrumbs left, or just under a cup, and we're going to add all those in there. And last but not least, what I've got here is a small little onion and a half of a large bell pepper. I like to saute my veggies before I put it in the meatloaf, just to get a good start with them. I don't like, my veggies crunchy or whatever in the meatloaf, and I understand when you put raw veggies in there, so they do cook, but to me, I just like to saute them first. So these onions and green peppers were sauteed, then cooled before we put them in the meatloaf. And that's just what I like to do. I think it just adds a lot better flavor to me, and it incorporates in the meat better. So that's what we got. So we've got our salt, pepper, our seasoned oil, pepper, granulated garlic, complete seasoning, a cup and a half of tomato sauce, a small onion, a half of a green pepper sauteed in there, and some breadcrumbs, 2 eggs. So all we got to do now is just give it a good little mix. Get in there and get it all mixed up and incorporated real well. Again, you've made meatloaf before, and you kind of got a gauge on where you are with the salt. And if you think sometimes your meatloaf is a little bland, add some more spice to it. It doesn't necessarily always mean salt that makes your food bland. You can have more garlic and pepper and other things in there. That's with any food. And then it's maybe add a little salt on the back end, but I'm really trying to be a little bit more conscious of the amount of sodium that I use in my foods. And there's, salt in the tomato sauce or ketchup that you use. Sometimes I do use a Lipton soup packet in there just for a little bit of a different flavor. But today I'm good. I think we're good. So that's what we're looking like, guys. That's what it is, mixed up. You can see how everything is well incorporated. I don't have big old humongous pieces of green pepper or onions sticking all out. Everything is incorporated real well. So now I just want to get a pan and get this loaf loafed up and put in the pan. So give me just a second, y'all. All right, we're back. Now I've got my pan. I'm using a Pyrex pan today. I've put some olive oil cooking spray at the bottom to help the meatloaf not to stick to the bottom of the pan. And just gonna take our loaf and put it in the pan and begin to form it into your meatloaf. Now you want to make sure that when you put your meatloaf in your pan that you have it as even as possible. So you don't want it real big on one side and skinny on the other. You want it to almost look like a I would say a football that's cut in half. Maybe a little bit more flat on the edges than the football, but you got the point. Just form it up real nice. And you want to make sure, if you can, that you don't have gaps or cracks in your meat, because if you do, sometimes it begin to separate. You don't really want that. So meatloaf is good, looking good. Now, one thing I do, I saw this years ago on a show, and I've been doing it ever since. I like to take a little bit of water, and I'll just take a little water and put some water on that meat, and then smooth it out a little bit. And I just think it makes it look a lot prettier. You know, I don't know kind of how it works, but I know it does. And you can just take that meat and kind of form it to where it's almost perfect. So that's it with that. Now I've got my oven preheated to 375 degrees. You know, all ovens cook differently, so don't just take my word for it as far as time is concerned, but I'm going to go on 375 degrees for a little over an hour, about an hour and 15 minutes. Then we'll check it and see where we're at. But that's how the meatloaf looks. See how that looks? It's perfect, perfectly shaped. We're gonna go into that oven and I'll check back with you guys shortly, guys. Stick around. What's going on, guys? It's been 45 minutes. We've got the meatloaf out. We still got a little ways to go, but now this is the time where I want to add my ketchup on top. Now what I have here is actually some barbecue sauce and ketchup mixed, and I don't like a ton of ketchup and stuff on my meatloaf because I kind of like gravy on it, but I do want to put some on there. So we're just going to take it and paint the ketchup on the top of the meatloaf, a nice little thin layer, and we're going to put that back in the oven and allow that ketchup to set up while the meatloaf is finishing cooking. I did drain the meatloaf, so there was a lot more fat and grease in the pan, but I did drain that off camera. But that's all you want to do now is just get a nice little layer on there. And you can see here, I'm using a paintbrush. I like using these for my basting brushes. One, because they're cheap. So if I mess it up or anything like that, or lose it, leave it outside, whatever the case may be, you get 2 for $1 from the Dollar Tree. So what I do, I get them, I run them through the dishwasher, get them sterilized and cleaned up, and that's what I use. So that's all the ketchup I want. It's just a nice thin layer on there. We're gonna put that back into that 375 degree oven for maybe another half hour or so. And then when it's done, we'll pick back up, guys. So stick around. All right, guys, here's the finished product. Cooked for a total of 1 hour and 20 minutes. You can see that glaze is nicely glazed on there, not real heavy, like I like it. But it's not looking good. I'm gonna let it cool just for a little bit. Then we're gonna go ahead and cut it open. When I do, bring you guys back in and we'll go ahead and get that first bite. All right, guys, got this all plated up now. Get a good looking, nice big hunk of meatloaf there, nice and hot. Mashed potatoes and some spinach on the side. But let's go ahead and get the first bite. Father God, we just thank you for this food. Receive what is as you prepare for us. The food is prepared, Lord God. Our body, Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. You guys see it. Got a little bit of gravy, but you can see how moist it is. Not dry at all. Look at that. Perfect. Basic, simple, delicious meatloaf. Salt is perfect. Green peppers, onions, perfect. The garlic and everything we put in there, spot on. If you like this good old-fashioned meatloaf, y'all try this recipe because it's a home run. Nothing special as far as all this extra, this good old-fashioned meatloaf. You'll love this, guys. Look, if you like the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you will be notified next time we have another video coming out. I truly appreciate you guys watching. Till the next time, this is Brandon with Taylorsfiresmoke Cooking. God bless.